A very good morning, Professor Dr. Hargopal Reddy, sir, the Vice Chancellor of the ICFI University, Dehradun, Brigadier Rajiv Sethi, sir, the Registrar of ICFI University, Professor O.R.S. Rao, sir, Vice Chancellor of ICFI University, Dehradun, ICFI University, Tripura, our eminent speakers, and all our participants. I, Prachi Mishra, Assistant Professor of Law, on behalf of the Center for Intellectual Capital and Institution Building, ICFI University, Dehradun, welcomes you all to the one-day workshop on research, publication, and ethics. The workshop has been divided into 4 sessions, which shall be dealt by our eminent and knowledgeable resource persons. There will be a question answer session at the end of the lecture, wherein the participants can write their questions relating to the session in the chat box, and the same shall be dealt with the end of the session. Further, at the end of each session, a feedback form shall be circulated. The participants are requested to fill each of them for the certificate. Now, I would like to invite Dr. T.K. Mandal, Associate Professor and Head of the Center for Intellectual Capital and Institution Building for the welcome note. Sir.
Good morning. Respected Professor Dr. Hargopal Reddy, Vice Chancellor, ICFI University, Dehradun, Professor O.R.S. Rao, Vice Chancellor, ICFI University, Jharkhand, Brigadier Rajiv Sethi, Sir, Registrar, ICFI University, Dehradun. I would like to express hearty welcome to everyone in today's workshop on research, publication, and ethics. The ICFI University, Dehradun ranks 36th in the world's universities with real impact ranking, first among top private universities in Uttarakhand by Education World Higher Education Ranking 2020-21. We at ICFI University focus on academics, research, and development, and hence to facilitate this, we have organized number of workshops and events. Our university, ICFI University Dehradun, offers PhD programs in management, science, technology, law, and education. It also offers postgraduate programs in MTech, MCA, MBA, and LLM, and undergraduate programs in BTech, BCA, BSc, BCom, BA, BBA, BA LLB, BBA LLB, LLB, and BEd. We have the Center for Intellectual Capital and Institutional Building with the objective of to execute and facilitate the faculty and research scholars of our university for research and quality publications in journals as well as publication of patents, and to collaborate with different national and international universities and organizations for the development of research activities. We have also our journals, Antardrishti IUD Journal of Interdisciplinary Research and ICFI Journal of Modern Law and Justice, in which high quality plagiarism-free research papers are published. With this, I welcome all the participants for today's workshop. Over to you, Ms. Prachi Madam.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I invite Professor O.R.S. Rao, sir, the Vice Chancellor of ICFI University, Jharkhand, to address our participants with his few words of wisdom. Sir.
Dr. Hargopal Reddy Garu, Vice Chancellor of ICFI University, Dehradun. Dr. Anand Bitpudi, Dean IBS from ICFI University, Dehradun. Dr. Tapan Mandal, Associate Professor and the Head of the Center for Intellectual Capital and Institution Building. Dr. Puneet Gupta, all the other faculty members and the research scholars. A very good morning to all of you. The ICFI University Dehradun has been doing a lot of good work, a lot of pioneering work, not only in academics, but also in terms of research. And they got a lot of accolades from the international as well as the national agencies. That is something that, being part of the ICFI group, I'm really proud of that. And particularly in the area of the intellectual capital and the institution building, perhaps to the best of my knowledge, I think ICFI University Dehradun is the only one possibly where you've got a focused center like this, Center for Intellectual Capital and Institution Building. Of course, maybe the other universities, although they are doing good work, but that kind of a focused center, I think the ICFA University Dehradun thought it fit to do that. And that's where, under the leadership of Dr. Tapan Mandal, I have seen a lot of good work is going on, particularly with regard to the various aspects of intellectual capital, be it in terms of the research and be it in terms of the publications. And I have seen a lot of focus, particularly on the interdisciplinary research, because it is most of the universities we have seen in India, particularly the universities when you have got different disciplines and different departments, while the research goes on in every one of the disciplines, in India, very rarely we come across this kind of initiative wherein they focus on the interdisciplinary research. Because in fact, more than half of my experience has been in the industry. And in the industry, typically what happens is the day-to-day problems, or for that matter, so-called the research problems, they don't come in silos. They don't come and tell us that, I'm a marketing problem, I'm a finance problem, I'm a some other problem into that. Even in the case of technology also, they come as a problem. And typically in the industry, the way industry addresses those problems is they put together the various disciplines and try and address the problem. They focus on the problem solution rather than the discipline. And that is the trend I have seen all over the world also. And all over the world also, typically, most of the contemporary research that takes place in interdisciplinary research. And so much so that, a few years back, the UGC also has taken initiatives with regard to this interdisciplinary research. They're giving a lot of funding for the interdisciplinary research. So that's where I'm so glad and I'm so happy to see that in the ICFA University Dehradun, a lot of interdisciplinary research is going on. In fact, a few days back, Dr. Tapan Mandal was mentioning to me that you are also publishing a journal on the interdisciplinary research. So these are all very good and unique initiatives that the university is taking. And as far as today's workshop is concerned, I think it's an excellent workshop, and I went through the structure. So there, what I have seen was, you are giving a holistic perspective. Typically in a coursework, maybe like, for every one of the disciplines, we might have had different coursework sessions, excepting for the research, publications, and ethics, that was a common course. But otherwise, all other courses were specific to the discipline. For management separately, science and technology, and law or education separately. So, but here today I could see there's an initiative to put together all the researchers, irrespective of the discipline in which they are working, so that we can give a holistic perspective. Because just like the problem solving in the research also, there's a common methodology for researching into that. So that's where it's a great initiative taken by Dr. Anand Betapudi and also Dr. Tapan Mandal and Dr. Puneet Gupta and all of you to take this initiative to have one-day workshop on this, so that we can get a holistic perspective. Not only a holistic perspective, I noticed that it's an end-to-end perspective. Starting with identifying the problem and how to put a title to that. A lot of times, let me tell you that, even a lot of parents struggle on how to name the child. They spend a lot of time in Googles and, so much work into that. And I have seen that great writers, when they write books, they spend a lot of time on how to name the book. And the same thing applies, when somebody is writing an article also, while the what you call content is very nice, and ultimately the title makes a lot of difference. So in terms of, the citations or in terms of the leadership into that. So that way you to give a title for the PhD kind of, a topic also is not an easy thing. So what I noticed was very rarely I come across the universities, focusing on that. We talk on so many things. Say we talk of, the research methodology and analysis, SPSS, interpretation, all that is there. But on how to give the title into that, I think that is something that shows that, how minutely that IUD is going into while looking at the research per se into that. So, and also notice that, you have got, excellent resource persons that is handling every one of the topics. So with these few words, I compliment the entire team for having thought through and put together a structure to that. And I wish the today's workshop a great success. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to say a few words from myself. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I invite Dr. Anand, the Dean of ICFI Business School, Dehradun, to provide us an overview of the workshop. Sir.
Yeah, greetings to all. The Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Hargopal Reddy Garu, Professor Y.R.S. Rao Garu, the Vice Chancellor of ICFI University, Jharkhand, and our Registrar, Brigadier Rajiv sir, and also the Director of Center for Intellectual Capital and Institutional Building, Dr. Tapan Mandal, and my colleague, Dr. Puneet Gupta, and all our faculty members and research scholars, and the faculty members of other universities. So once again, I invite you all formally. So let me tell you the story, just 2 minutes, how it was happened. So while I was talking with Dr. Tapan Mandal and myself, so let us do some research activity to encourage our research scholars, not only our scholars. So let us encourage all the scholars across India. So it was happened just 10 days before, and we have come out this one-day workshop, international workshop on research, publications, and ethics, which is very prominent, essential for each and every faculty. I tell you 2 incidents. Dr. Tapan Mandal went to Germany for his research, postdoctoral research. So because of his efforts, he got this position. And one of my achievement in my research is I published 65 research papers, out of which one paper I published in 2013 in Malaysia, role of ICT in tourism industry. We can see in the Google also, which got 205 citations across the world. So because of that achievement, I got a position in Jain University as a professor, Christ University as a professor, Geetham University as a professor, and now I become a dean. So research and teaching both should go together. And moreover, the quality of the research will not be achieved just a day or a month or a year. It takes time. It may take 20 years, 30 years also. So it's a continuous activity. So based on this background, Dr. Tapan Mandal and myself, we put one request to our university authorities. Immediately they have sanctioned, approved this workshop. So it is just a preliminary research workshop. So once this research is over, then we'll go for an in-depth of various tools and techniques used for the research. So today workshop consists of 4 parts. One is research methodology, tools and techniques by Dr. Pampalli Shashkumar. He was our earlier colleague. So he is very good at these tools and techniques from Geetham University, Hyderabad. So he'll be delivering how to go about your research, with the latest tools and techniques. He gives an overall view. It is not an in-depth because time is not sufficient. So and later on, so I'll be talking on how to select a topic, research topic or a research title. So which is most, we see first topic, then only we go for a in-depth of the research work. So research title should be universal. Everyone, a common man should also understand the title. So I'll be talking about the research title, how to choose a research thesis or theme. And later on, we have one more speaker, Dr. T.K. Mandal. He talks about ethics in research and publications. I tell you at this point of time, one day we had a talk by IIM Bangalore professor. I believe that his name is also Bal Gopal. He was addressing our faculty in Geetham University. One faculty in IIM Bangalore lost his job because she copied entire title and thesis to her to publish the paper. Because that one reason, she lost her professor job in IIM Bangalore. So now ethics are most important while developing a research paper, or it may be a thesis. And lastly, we have Dr. Sudhanshu Joshi. So we'll be talking about crafting the research roadmap for early career researchers and beginners. So I feel today workshop will be a intellectual sharing and everyone definitely take away some important key takeaways are there. So I appreciate all the team members and my colleague, Dr. Puneet Gupta, who has taken, the pain to circulate and prepare, coordinating. And also I appreciate my colleague, Dr. Tapan Mandal, the director of Center for Intellectual Capital and Institutional Building. I hope this today workshop will be a great learning for each and everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's time to start the session, our first session. But before inviting our eminent speaker for the first session, Dr. S. Sashikumar, sir, I would like to take an opportunity to introduce him. Dr. S. Sashikumar, sir, is a triple postgraduate and holds MBA, MFT, MA in Economics, MPhil, and PhD. He is having 20 years of experience in the field of industry and teaching. He has presented research papers in national and international conferences organized by the universities, IITs, and IIMs. He has 30 research papers in peer-reviewed journals with impact factor in the area of mutual funds, stock markets, capital market, corporate finance, and corporate governance, etc. He has designed and conducted various faculty development programs in the areas of research methodology, financial modeling, emerging issues in accounting of finance, etc. He has also acted as a resource person in various FDPs, seminars, workshops of affiliated colleges, autonomous colleges, universities. He has also conducted management development activities both in public and private sector organizations like NTPC, Creamline Dairy, DHCA Logistics, and Andromedia Energy Technologies. He holds a lifetime membership in the Institute of IAA Hyderabad chapter, APEC and TCC. His present areas of interest includes corporate finance, international financial security markets, etc. Also, he has been honored. He has been he holds a lifetime membership in another eminent institutions also. Sir, we are honored to have you with us. Now, I invite Dr. Sashikumar, sir, to enlighten us with his knowledge. Sir?
Sir, 1 minute, Sir Shashkumar, sir. So our register also available. So I request register, sir, please address 1 minute with our audience, sir.
Sir, I don't know whether you can hear me or not because I've kind of lost.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. You are audible.
I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In any case, thanks a lot for having me. I also happen to be a research scholar as of now with the rest of you. But since I'm holding the position of the registrar, so I might as well say something. I'm extremely grateful to Dr. Anand to have organized this with Puneet Gupta and also Prachi Mishra, who's tackling this, and Tapan Mandal, who's the research coordinator for the ICFI University, Dehradun. All of you are welcome, and I'm sure you are going to take full advantage of the various top-end speakers that they have organized for you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I invite our eminent speaker of the first session, Dr. Sashikumar, sir, to enlighten us with his words of wisdom. Sir.
Thank you, Prachin, for your nice introduction, and thank you to one and all. I thank Dean and other faculty members for providing me this opportunity. I hope my audio and video is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Just a minute. Yeah. So, yeah. So very good morning to one and all, and first of all, wholehearted congratulations to the team of ICFI Dehradun for organizing a nice workshop on research methodology to the young research scholars. I thank Dean and Professor Tapan sir and Puneet sir for providing this opportunity. So as the title of the session is about research methodology, tools and techniques. So without any further delay, see broadly, we all know about while doing the research, maybe it may be for a thesis, it may be for a high-end paper, or it may be for outcome may be different. But in general, we all know about it's a culmination of both quantitative and qualitative methods. And in some of the literature, we used to call it as a mixed methods of research is also there. But when we broadly look into the developments that's happening in the market, in the education stream today, more of research in the orientation of qualitative research methods. Now the developments that's happening in the market. So my presentation today, my talk is about, I try to put emphasis on both quantitative as well as qualitative methods. And in between, wherever there is a necessary, I try to explain you a few softwares that are useful for doing the data analysis. See, the reason is very simple. The outcome of the research may differs from stream to stream. It may be in a law, the outcome may be different. Maybe in a engineering stream, the way we propose an outcome is completely different. In management studies, where we have social behavior is a major area. So for the purpose of generalization, we use varieties of tools and techniques, and we use varieties of instruments. But one of the common instrument known to all of us is about questionnaire. But the question that always rises before whenever we talk about this questionnaire, are we doing any pre-testing of it? Or just we are designing it? So my young research scholars kindly remember about it. For the purpose of data collection, any instrument you select, which is suitable to your thesis, suitable to your title, but please check to what extent it will fit to your data first. Have we did such type of concrete review of literature? That's the first question that always rises for us. Otherwise, it will simply a process of designing a questionnaire, data collection, and analyze the data, and we try to do certain results. But the question is always, the question that always reminds us, whatever the respondents I included in my thesis, are they aptly reflecting my work? A simple common sense example. Even I used to refer about the journals also, but I always get it out. A simple topic in marketing. Nowadays we'll identify about a lot of literature on green marketing. But have we come across at any point of time in the literature, in the questionnaire, at any point of time, how we ensure that the customer is a green customer? If every customer filled your questionnaire, what is the sanctity of your question? We are making assumptions and presumptions that everybody is a green customer, but we are not doing any pre-testing. Please understand, this is the most important area in understanding the validity of your instrument. Any instrument you take it as for that matter. It may be face-to-face interviews, it may be schedules, it may be anything. But have we did such type of pre-testing? That simply we say we collected thousands of respondents and 2000 respondents number we are indicating. That is not the criteria. Please understand about it. Okay, I'll tell you a simplest example. Usually the agriculture departments in every state government, they do that. This is a common because I'm also a part of consultancy assignment with the AP state government in few of these agriculture projects. Like a simplest example, usually during these monsoon seasons, in order to understand the pest development and pest control, they'll use different varieties of chemicals, they'll use varieties of products, and they need to collect the data. What is its impact on the cultivation as well as production of certain seasonal crops? These usually done by the agriculture departments. But how they will ensure that the respondent is belonging to my study only? There's one common thing in the social science. Whenever we do the study, we never ensure that whether this customer is mine or not. It is just like a marketing myopia. We will release a product, we will say that everything is mine only. Every customer is not your customer. Every respondent is not your respondent. It's just like a simplest joke. Always people will say that conducted a study on retail outlets, and majority of my customers are male members. I definitely doubt such type of exercises. Simple common sense. Agriculture departments, whenever we observe, when they collect the data, always they ensure that the respondent is aptly suitable to the data. How they are ensuring? Whenever they are trying to distribute the data, especially in the geographic areas, they collect the farmers cultivating particular crop in that area, list of farmers, and they will identify where the locations in which place they are staying, and they will insist the enumerators, you go and meet the farmers on such a timings. Like usually when we follow the agriculture research papers, they'll indicate even timings also. You go and meet the farmers in the morning hours, because when once you the time crosses, example like after 6 o'clock, no farmer is available with you. So at least you need to collect the data before say 6:30, 7 o'clock. After that, no farmer is interested to provide you the data. And whenever an enumerator collecting the data, they ensure that you please switch on your GPRS so that we can track you that from whom you are collecting the data. Such a way of assurance need to be done. Then only you get your results in a very precision you can indicate in your results. So the first and the foremost important thing whenever we talk about the research methodology, tools and techniques, I hope my presentation is visible to all of you. I'll say we all know about it very well. I quickly move into that. We all know about in the thesis, we are using both quantitative and qualitative methods. We all know about it. I believe strongly whenever we develop a thesis or a paper or anything, it's a combination of quantitative data and qualitative data. If it is a quantitative data, we say it may be in the form of a numerical form. So the reason is very simple. Whenever we try to develop a quantitative data based research, our flexibility with the research design is very limited. You don't have huge flexibility in the research design, but qualitative data is not like that. You have a lot of flexibility is there. The reason is the data structure. You need to design the data structure. That's the fundamental difference. At least in a quantitative data, you will have a raw data, but in case of your qualitative data, even you don't have that scope, you need to design the data. You need to explore the data. It may be relating to the values, attitudes, opinions, anything it is. So whenever we talk about paper, thesis, anything, always remember thesis must be a combination of quantitative plus qualitative data analysis. Why such an attention, especially in the recent literature on qualitative data? Because qualitative research always helps the researchers in generating theory. It always helps the research in developing policy. Example like improving education practices, justifying change for a particular practice, illuminating social issues. Such type of new theory building can be possible with the help of your qualitative research. That's why I said you have a lot of flexibility in case of your qualitative research. It is not simply writing a review of literature, but review of literature, even if you want to write it, there are different methods of writing a review of literature relating to the topic that always we feel it is a qualitative research. No, it is not a qualitative research. Under qualitative research, there are various ways. Example, like when we say qualitative research, you can cover about content analysis, transcription analysis, discourse analysis, coding, text interpretations, recursive abstractions, grounded theory methodologies, because you collected the data in the qualitative analysis from any of these places. Like it may be of telephone interviews, internet based emails, fake focus groups. Example, when we follow about sales related organizations, they follow Delphi groups, observation notes, whatever may be the data you collected. These are all will provide you, will fit into this type of analysis. Example like grounded theory methodology, it will provide you an opportunity for us to do this type of analysis. This is one area, coding is one area where you need to design the coding. That's how you need to extract the data in qualitative data analysis. You don't have any ready-made data that is available. The data structure we need to design, and we need to identify a proper coding for that. So these are 7 or 8 different ways where you can develop your qualitative data analysis. Under qualitative data analysis, when we purely look into qualitative data analysis, these are the softwares that are available. But please remember, in qualitative data analysis, majority of the softwares are proprietary based and server based. And in the top priority list, you can follow with NVivo, is a qualitative data analysis software. Atlas TI is also there. And very frequently in the research papers, you can identify about QDA Miner is there. Miner is one particular software where we can use for data mining. Max QDA is also a good software. So within this list, you have certain free softwares are also available where suitable to your research. Suitable to your research, you need to select the software. That's most important thing. It is not everything that is suitable. It is not like your quantitative data analysis softwares. Qualitative data analysis softwares, most important thing, we need to understand the data structure suitable to that. You need to select. Example, what type of what are the features of these softwares usually? With these softwares, you can do annotations, you can do coding tools, you can code your data, like visualization activities, you can do it like linking, and media analytics, you can do it like tools for mapping and networking, mixed methods of research you can do. And majority of these qualitative softwares, they support sentiment analysis. And they also provide you tools like cluster analysis tools. And text analytics is one more area where majority of these softwares are helps the researchers in doing data mining activities. These are certain features where you say I'm mentioning about the few features that are fit for these softwares, but every software will have its own uniqueness. Suppose take an example, I'll say simplest example. I am reading annual report of a company. Suppose I am interested to read 10 different annual reports of companies who are supporting green products in the market, which show much interest on environmental friendliness companies. I want to read their annual reports. I want to understand the intensity of the chairman's statement in the chairman's letters. We all know about it. When we open the annual report, we'll have a chairman's letter will be there. CEO letter will be there. I want to understand the intensity, whether to what extent does it reflecting the activities of the company. The tone that was set in that annual reports, is it really reflecting in the activities of the company? Example, simplest example, MDA, management discussion and analysis, and an annual report which talk about future direction. So many things it will talk, but whether it's really reflecting in their activities. So I collected certain 20 annual reports for that company, like 20 years, so that I have 20 years of chairman's statements are available with me. I want to analyze it. It's a content analysis. Content analysis softwares are there. So identify the objective of doing your research, suitable to that, select the software. Otherwise, qualitative data every time, even I follow in ResearchGate and other places also, people will put lot of queries. But one of the common thing that's missing in majority of these places is, what is your requirement? That is a major area here. So suppose take an example like I'll say about only 2-3 softwares here. NVivo. There's a you can 28 days trial version is available. You can use this NVivo. So it will organize and analyze non-numerical or unstructured data basically. Usually, who is using this NVivo? Majority of the times, English department people, they are trying to use it. Even our management faculty members are also using. It will help us to classify, sort, and arrange information, like all types of your clustering, you can do it. Like it may be from simple hierarchical clusters to k-means of clusters, neighborhood clusters. It's there in the SPSS also, but please remember, clustering you can do in different ways. But I'm talking about clustering of qualitative data, clustering of qualitative data, classification of qualitative data. So what is an advantage? You can examine the relationships. Any relationships can be drawn in the data. You can do combined analysis with linking, shapes, searching, and modeling. You can do with this type of software. But this is a server-based and proprietary version. It's a proprietary. And one more software which frequently, very frequently, we can come across in the papers, QDA Miner. It's also a statistical software, but qualitative analysis. So which we are using for coding frequencies, cluster analysis, coding sequences. Because please remember, those who are using SPSS, you are coding the data like 1, 2, 3, 4, whether it, whatever may be your scale, it may be of your Likert scale, it may be of your semantic differential scales, it may be Guttman, whatever may be your scale, you used it. But such type of ready-made thing is not available in qualitative data. That's what I'm trying to say repeatedly in these discussions. So the QDA Miner always talk about statistical functions like coding frequencies. You can do cluster analysis. And you can code the variables, variable by variable, you can code it, and visualization tools such as multidimensional scalings, MDS is there. And this heat maps is also, you can use in R also, you have heat maps are there. SPSS also, you can do that. Correspondence analysis, proximity plots. So these are few tools which we can utilize with the help of QDA Miner. And one more very frequently used software is about Atlas TI. So it is mainly we are using this tool to manage your documents, multi-document view. You can view this the documents, 4-5 documents at a time. And it's like it will work like a high performance multimedia engine. And Atlas TI basically helps the researchers to uncover and systematically analyze your complex phenomena, especially in case of medical, where you can medical journals, when you refer about it, they use this Atlas TI. So you can understand the unstructured data such as text related data, multimedia, geospatial data. So these are the three very frequently used qualitative data softwares. See, in thesis, we always talk about review of literature. In review of literature, either we may do a systematic review of literature or a thematic analysis, or maybe a geographical based analysis we're doing about it. But the question that always rises, are we trying to show in a concrete manner that the gap that was identified by me is truly reflecting the gap in the practical scenarios? Because there we are not mentioning the gap. When we refer the literature, there are varieties of gaps out there. There are 7 different types of gaps researchers are addressing about it. But which gap I am addressing in my thesis? That's a big area. Probably we're not paying attention towards that. This is where exactly these qualitative research softwares are helpful for us to strengthen our conclusions. Just a minute. Maybe those who are referring about the literature, you can refer about it, so that it will also provide you a lot of information about gap identifications. Just as a matter of reference, I'll show you. You can link up with this article. Link up this with this article. Thought that the article is available with me. This is one of the famous article. You can use it as a reference also. This is basically, please check your thesis tomorrow while you're designing your thesis, what gap you are identifying about it. Are we proposing that gap in a confident manner? It's not just like writing a gap. You need to prove what type of gap it is, whether it is an evidence-based gap you're identifying in your review of literature, knowledge gap, practical knowledge gap, methodological gaps you're identifying, or empirical gaps, or theoretical gap, or population gap. This is a famous article of MCOY 2011, Muller, Bloch, and Knach, and Miles 2017. You can read this article. This is a very nice article about research gap. This is where our qualitative data analysis softwares are helpful for us in indicating the gap what we are working. Any title you select it, I'm pretty well, I'm indicating to all the research scholars. You fix even a simple title on consumer behavior, customer perception, whatever maybe it is, but identify the gap, which gap you're talking about it. Whether you address the methodological gap, then clearly show the methods and research designs that are happened in that research area till date, and what gap you identified about it, how you want to fill up that gap. What is your homework for doing that? If it is an empirical gap, try to show that empirical evidence that yes, this gap is presented in the research. That's a few minutes back I showed you about the topic called as green marketing. How to ensure about it, because simply including a questionnaire is not an indication that are you a green customer or not. No, I'll give you a link question also. Are we inquiring about what is your green budget in the house? We don't do that. Just simply we start collecting about the data. Then how can we populate that? Yes, this is my gap I'm proposing about it. So please try to understand, my friends, whenever we talk about the thesis as a criteria, the research tools as a criteria, these are the qualitative data analysis softwares we're using at present in the market. And when it comes to quantitative data analysis tools, like these are the varieties of softwares that are available with all of us, like SPSS, statistical package for social sciences, usually for quantitative data. And Stata is also there. It's basically for econometrics related software. Statistics also, you can do statistics, but majorly you can do for econometrics related, financial econometrics. Then when it comes to the topic of eViews is also an econometrics based software. And SAS is there, statistical analysis. And R is a very open access software, because within this, please remember, whenever any resource person talk about softwares, please try to understand whether it is a free software or a proprietary based softwares, because SPSS is IBM SPSS is a proprietary based software. eViews is a proprietary based software. R is an open access software. And moreover, in all these softwares, please try to remember, the softwares can be broadly segregated into two parts. They are GUI based and they are code based. These are GUI. Example, like your SPSS is a graphical user interface. It will provide you both, because as we are very flexible with GUI, we are using SPSS as a GUI, but we can do coding also. Example, for marketing, whenever we try to do about the marketing related research, we try to use about marketing related research like multidimensional scaling, or we try to use about advanced marketing research techniques. So in all the areas, you need to use the code, especially like advanced correlation techniques. Not saying about the simple correlation, canonical correlation. You want to run a code, a simple code of line, you need to write it. SPSS facilitates both. Your R is a open access software where it is a code based. You need to use small codes and you need to understand small packages, but very flexible to use, And today there are a lot of supporting labs are also there. Today supporting blogs are also there. So we can easily learn about it. R is one particular software where we can use both for quantitative and qualitative. Example, like we are conducting research on meta-analysis. especially in review of literature. Whenever you are doing, research scholars are interested to conduct meta-analysis, meta-correlation, meta-regression. Why we are conducting meta-correlation, meta-regression? First understand the question. Then what I'm going to conclude by doing this meta-correlation, I'm trying to establish any relationship between the metadata. Then what is that metadata? Don't stop your review of literature only at systematic SLR only, systematic literature review. Extend it. Propose a gap. Try to test the gap, whether the gap is really existing in the literature or not. That's where your meta-analysis is helpful to the researchers. Meta-correlations are there, meta-regressions are there. Then usually when we are teaching about production operations management related subjects where we are using Minitab, you statistical quality control related areas of research, you can use Minitab. And MATLAB is basically a matrix based lab. That's why they call it as a MATLAB. So usually those research scholars with the mathematics background, MATLAB is very easy. Like example, like BTech research scholars, they can use MATLAB. It's a mathematics based. Then softwares like Jamovi is free, JMP, PSPP is a free statistical software. Research scholars can access this PSPP. But please remember SPSS, it supports, it's a very easy to use. It's a GUI based software. We all know about it. It includes all varieties of your techniques, like it includes about your descriptive, your inferential statistics. It talk about your multivariate statistics. Also, you can do it. You can do model building like with MOS. You can do like regression techniques. But advanced regressions, whenever you want to run, research scholars, please use Stata. Stata is both. It is a GUI based as well as code based. Then what I suggest today's scenario for the research scholars is about R. Because at least please remember, when we are closing our thesis, we need to be well versed with at least 3 to 4 softwares. At least 2 in quantitative, 2 in qualitative. Your thesis should reflect, it should be a combination of quantitative plus qualitative. Am I getting you clear? It's not simply writing about it. Please remember, because another important area, whenever we put any chapter or anything, immediately we get a plagiarism report today. And plagiarism is indicating that 20% similarity index, 30% similarity index will be there. See, while I'm using this type of softwares in a systematic way to provide my results, to provide the literature in a systematic way, definitely you can put your own efforts to write it. Otherwise, what is happening? Systematic review of literature, how we are doing, we are writing article by article, we are doing the sequencing numbers and we are writing about it. Definitely it will catch the plagiarism. But what is the end result of it? We studied 100 articles. What is the end result of 100 articles? But please, simple things, I'll tell simple tips. Suppose if I am reading 100 articles, am I trying to identify article by article keywords? Keywords and indication that to what extent the others in the same literature, example like performance evaluation of mutual funds, both modern and as well as traditional techniques, as well as like persistency, performance, you talk anything. Performance can be measured in mutual funds in all 3 different ways: traditional, market timing, persistency, then other areas also. But are we paying attention towards observing about the keywords used by the researchers? Then second area, what type of findings are they drawing? Suppose if they used about the techniques to like market timing abilities of fund managers, usually researchers will use about Trainer Massey and Erickson Metron techniques like 2-factor models, 3-factor models, multi-factor models. But in all these areas, are the results are in the same manner they're reflecting? What is the consistency in the results? So please check about it. That's where exactly these softwares are helpful to all of us to understand, to propose in an innovative way. Where suppose example, with the review of literature, we can develop nice tables. especially as it is a combination of research scholars. That's why I'm clearly indicating you this will help us to develop varieties of tables. So suppose take an example. Yeah, I'll show you possible one article. I'll show you so that the review of literature will. Just a minute. Suppose take an example. Now it was a recent publication of our one of our faculty friend in the group. Please check about it. Topic is very simple. Topic is very simple. Examining the influence of mindfulness on organizational role stress. Oh, they also used instrument, but they mentioned the preconditions, pre-testing criterias. When you're reading this type of simple articles, also just a monitor acceptance theory perspective, they mentioned about the preconditions on what basis they try to did this research, like literature review, like how they incorporated this concept of mindfulness, how they tested this. Then the topic about the scale reference literature, then literature relating to organizational role stress. At every stage you can identify about the review of literature, and today the process of writing review of literature, it will be in the form of like a story building. You need to develop the story between the authors so that the research will be connected, so that in such a way that when we are doing the research today, what exactly the research journals and the agencies are demanding from all of us. Suppose take an example, my white screen is visible to all of you, I hope. So suppose take an example, I studied 100 articles, and the articles I start studying from 1990 to 2021, I started studying these articles. Now, nineteen 2000, 2010. Over the years, suppose if you are studying about a simple topic like job satisfaction, you are studying from 1990 to 2021. Within the span of 20-21 years, what type of developments in the subject happened? First of all, first question. Then, in what direction others are studying this particular topic? Are they addressing about any innovative dimensions on this subject? If so, what are the dimensions they addressed on the job satisfaction? Then, today when you follow the literature on these type of subjects, lot of interdisciplinary research is happening. Lot of interdisciplinary research is happening. Does your topic is relating to any interdisciplinary research? If so, what are the possibilities of addressing those areas? Then based on that, if you have a clarity about the developments, the areas where others are doing the research, the dimensions of their research, then it is easy for us to propose a research gap with concrete evidences. That's where these qualitative data analysis softwares are helpful for all of us. Again, I'm indicating about it. Then you can do a quantitative data analysis with your questionnaire or any other instruments. Then data analysis is complete. You get a full completeness for your data analysis where it is reflecting the tools of qualitative plus quantitative. Don't simply say that only my SPSS or some other software is only an aid. It is not complete. Please try to understand about it. So now, suppose take an example. While I'm studying the literature from 1990 to 2021, one more area what we can do it, we can identify about other by other. Then we can identify this topic of job satisfaction, how it was studied in the Indian literature, in the Western literature, and we can try to identify about is there any difference in this type of studies that are conducted in the job satisfaction. Maybe the industry wise, is there any differences was there? As because of that, is there any change in the conclusions that are happened? The way the researchers are proposing about the conclusions on job satisfaction, does it reflecting any practices? This I used to remember like ICP. Then the research, you can say it's going in a systematic manner. That's why whenever we do data analysis, I always say about the data analysis. Just a minute. Where is that? One more area. Yeah. See, when we use quantitative data analysis, always remember it's a very common thing that most of your survey, most of the studies will use survey instruments for data collection. So what are your observations when a single informant design is used for answering the questionnaire? Common method bias is a concern that has to be cleared. There is also one more area today in majority of the thesis research papers. They are asking, they are questioning the research scholars how you are addressing the common method bias. So what exactly the common method bias refers to? Deviations in observed relationships from true relationships caused by similarity in methods used to obtain the data. How you are addressing this deviation? That's a simple common method bias. So one of the simplest way, what researchers will always say, use different sources of information for dependent and your independent constructs in your model. Like you can say that you may include ex ante and ex post to approaches tools you can adopt to minimize the bias. Otherwise, what is happening? The entire thesis will go with this common method bias only, definitely. And moreover, in quantitative data analysis, whenever you are using your any of these tools, please try to remember you need to operationalize it. You need to bring those tools into your research. That's why the constructs, whatever you are proposing, you need to operationalize. Check the validity and reliability test, conduct the validity and reliability test, do a robustness test. Then you can say that in any model, the constructs you proposed, yes, these are truly reflecting my model. At least these 5 areas, whenever we do quantitative analysis, we need to remember. And as I said earlier, the qualitative analysis is simple for your reference. I mentioned about it. So it's basically a narrative and logic about how the researcher reaches a certain results. So like you can refer about case studies, interviews published in the journals. Also, you can consider for qualitative analysis. But majority of the times when we read the literature on qualitative analysis, researchers try to argue why the situation they study are somehow interesting for revealing new aspects of a focal phenomenon or a group phenomenon. That's where exactly they revolve around the entire research. Suppose take an example, if you are reading an article on tools like data envelopment analysis, DEA related tools, it may be relating to efficiency based literature. So they try to disclose about why they are trying to study efficiency, especially like when you are reading about articles on transportation management related subjects, where they use this tool very frequently. DE analysis like input, output, input relationships to examine their efficiency and efficacy in transportation management. They use this. But when we start reading the literature at every stage, we get the same doubt. Are we trying to reveal certain new aspects of a particular phenomenon or a group? That's a major area. So whenever we try to read about it, your research, maybe article, please remember it must be a descriptive presentation of what was found in your research. Definitely you will have differences between your findings in the research and what was known from previous publications. You need to be highlighted. Then only you can say that yes, my thesis or my article, my paper, whatever I am writing, yes, it's different from others. So this is the section where you must be associated with both qualitative and quantitative research reported in the manuscript. Like when the example I mentioned here, it is a quantitative study. So you can talk about series of hypotheses, whatever you developed in the thesis, and which are helpful for presenting the findings for each hypothesis. Usually what researchers will do, they present the hypothesis in different orders. But please try to remember, whenever you develop hypothesis, please try to remember it should be in a sequential manner. You need to address about it. Even in proposing the hypothesis, also with connecting with your title, you need to draw the hypothesis. A simple example I mentioned here, simple with a regression model or any other models you used it. Any other model you used it, even in marketing research, we use varieties of models. But please remember, each model should end with what's exactly your findings in. Parallelly, you need to talk about it. What is the theory is addressing? What are your findings? Or what is the model that was earlier you developed in the manuscript? And is it in line with the current trends that's happening in the industry? Then is it possible to us to, with our research, can we suggest some new areas? Can we propose the new areas of research so that where the industry can start doing research on those areas? That's how research happening in the academics moving to the industry, because that's the basic question that's happening. Because at every point of time, whenever you ask a question to any of these research scholars, why you're doing your research or thesis, why you're developing your thesis, the straight question I ask about it: how many of the industries are accepted your thesis? Or is only an academic thesis in the form of a bounded volumes? If it is not used by the industry, what is the use of it? So please see to that the thesis, whatever we are developing, it should act as a stimulus to the industry to use in there to solve their problems, to address their perennial problems. Otherwise, thesis will be there, everything will be there in your book only. You cannot really identify the outcomes. What is the impact of your outcomes? And one more area about just a minute. One more area I always say about whenever we are using these tools and techniques in the research, the most important thing need to understand in the methodology, please address the purpose. What exactly the purpose you are, with which purpose you are starting your research? Because it should clearly demonstrate the researcher followed acceptable scientific standards in conducting research. There is a first major area where it will show that yes, the primary purpose of my research is achieved. Whether the researcher is trying to replicate the present study so that the results you can compare with your existing results. Because simplest example, you did a 300 pages research, is it comparable with your previous studies? If so, to what extent your results are comparable with the previous researchers? If not, why it is not comparable? If it is comparable, yes, people will say that it is a replica, but there are certain additions are there in the results section. Instead of using few variables, I use different set of variables. Then what is that impact of those variables? Usually when you are reading the thesis, people will say that in the earlier research, they used 10 variables, I used 11 variables or 15 variables, fine. But what about the effect of that increment in the variables? You increased 15 or 14 variables you included. What is the effect or addition of those 4 variables on your results? That's where your topic of methodological considerations will matter to you. So the researchers have a very broad field of methodologies from which you need to select, choose in your methods. You need to be justified. And you need to link back at every time with your research objectives. Please remember, don't say that this tool is innovative, I used it, or this technique is innovative, I used it. No. Every time you need to check what is its link with the objectives. Please check that one. Then only you can say, you can answer to the question that is the methodology used in the research is clear. The first question. Have we checked it? Is the methodology appropriate for the research question? If I am doing, yes, I need to do this. Any researcher for that point. Because I remember while doing my thesis, especially my professor asked the same question: Are we checking about your research question? Then I started doing about the pre-testing. I used both primary and secondary. Then I checked the validity of the results. Then I try to check the pre-testing. That then only I understand about what is the importance of conducting a pilot study. Then the questionnaire was changed. Then modifications are entered. So all these things you need to keep the record so that you can understand the developments that happened in your thesis. Thank you, and thank you one and all. Wish you best of luck. From my side, these are the basic tools and techniques, and the considerations need to be taken into account while developing a full-fledged thesis.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative session. I'm sure our participants, especially the research scholars, which even I am one of them, have learned a lot from you about the tools of quantitative research and the techniques of other research methodology. Sir, we were very honored to have you in our session, and we are very delighted to listen such an informative session from you. Now, moving on for the next session, I would like to invite Dr. Hansini Premi to invite our honorable second speaker for the session. Ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you,
one and-
sir. Thank you.
Thank you one and all, and for providing me this opportunity. Wish you best of luck to all the research scholars. I hope I fulfilled your requirements. If any further requirements are there, just intimate me. I'll share everything. Just go through that. Yeah. As you clearly indicated, the dean sir, that's why I covered about only the peripherals of it. Okay. That's why I inquired about whether it is a lab or without lab. So you can.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Shashi Kumar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May I exit?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Should I start with the second? Prachi ma'am, should I start with the second session?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Ma'am.
Okay. Our second session is all about how to choose a suitable title for research. And a resource person is none other than Dr. Anand Bethapudi, who's currently Dean IBS IUD. He's a doctorate in business management from Rayalaseema University, Government of Andhra Pradesh, Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, India. His post-graduation is Masters of Business Administration with Marketing Management as specialization. In his graduation, he did Bachelor's of Engineering, ECE from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. Sir has also qualified UGC NET and JRF qualified. Dr. Bethapudi has his expertise in the area of marketing management, service marketing, digital marketing, marketing theory practice, and HRM principles. He has guided several PhD scholars under his eminent guidance. He is also a visiting scholar as well as was selected for postdoc in the University of South Carolina. He has more than 23 years of teaching and research experience, academic administration, admissions, project consultancy experiences. Dr. Betapudi worked as a professor in marketing in Jain University, Bangalore. He has also worked as associate professor and HOD in National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Hyderabad, Geetam University, Hyderabad, and Christ University, Pune at UG, PG, PhD levels. Dr. Betapudi also worked as a professor and HOD in Vidya Vikas Institute of Technology, Hyderabad, High Tech College of Engineering and Technology, Hyderabad, and PG College, Guntur, Mahatma Gandhi College, Guntur. He has exceptional research skills and he has published over 65 research papers in national and international journals, chapters in books, conference proceedings. He has also edited and published 3 books and is an editor and associate editor for 4 major international journals and research areas. And the research areas are customer satisfaction, service quality, marketing and tourism, travel, hospitality, banking sectors. He has over 200 citations. Dr. Betapudi has presented 35 research papers in national and international conferences and seminars. He has presented in conferences of international repute as well. The list goes on. Dr. Betapudi has also received the Best Teacher Award from a former Chief Minister, Dr. Rosai Garu, and Best Tourism Researcher Award from Channa Khan IAS, former Tourism Secretary. He has also participated as a subject expert in several TV channels, namely Doordarshan Yadgiri Channel, TV9, Sakshi, NTV, iNews, etc. Sir, it is our immense pleasure to have you with us, and please, we welcome you all to give us some pearls of wisdom of yours to enlighten us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I invite the Honorable Speaker, Dr. Anand, sir, to enlighten us with his words of wisdom. Thank you, sir. Sir.
Yeah, thank you all. Is it screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
1 minute. So 1 minute. The screen is 1-day workshop on research, publications, and ethics. Is that the screen? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's okay.
Yes, because I have 2 screens are there. I am little confused. Okay. So once again, I thank you for everyone, Dr. Mandal, and also thank you for Dr. Hanshini Premi for short introduction, and also the Prachi Mishra for her anchoring, and all the scholars. Once again, greetings to all. Yeah, today my topic is how to choose a thesis topic. So if I tell, explain my topic, then it would be useful for you to choose a topic. So actually, we're choosing a topic is basic, essential criteria for any researcher. Suppose a person already completed doctorate. So my lecture may not be useful. We have not selected the topic, so it will definitely useful. Okay. So let me share my experience, how I have selected my topic for research papers and also the PhD topic. So that would be a great benefit to all of you. Actually, I started my journey in research in 1998. Well, I joined my PhD in Andhra University under the guidance of Professor B. Apparao Garu. He's also called as Banking Apparao Garu. Do you know why he got the name Banking Apparao Garu? Because he has guided more than 15 doctorates in banking sector and more than 30 MPhils in banking sectors. So that is why his name became a research topic. Surname became a research topic itself, Banking Apparao Garu. So that's what I say. I started my journey with my first paper, electronic commerce. My paper was electronic commerce. Do you believe that paper accidentally, or I connected myself because my boss, my research supervisor was very knowledgeable and he did a lot of PhDs in banking. I have selected the topic, and also my engineering was electronics and communications. And I worked for 2 years in software industry. Then I have correlated my engineering degree with my PhD topic. So that is the way I have selected the research paper that's called electronic commerce. It was Click. So that was published, very nice. I was very happy. And one more paper I published in 2012. I can show you, you can see in the Google, because now I need to stop the screen and I have to go on the screen. So you can Google it in your mobile phones. The role of ICT in tourism industry. The role of ICT. ICT means information communication technologies. It was the reason I selected was for Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, there were 2 universities are there, USM and PSU. USM is a university in Kuala Lumpur, PSU is in Thailand. So both the universities joined together. They have conducted a conference on social sciences. At that moment, I was working in a National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management as an associate professor, head of the department. So by that time, I have published about 15 papers. Then I related my area of my organization. My organization was tourism and hospitality. So I related my topic to my organization, which is specialized in tourism hospitality sector, and my engineering was electronics and communication. Then I thought of, let me relate my engineering subject with my organizational specialization. That's called tourism. So to select the topic, believe me, I spent more than 15 days only to select a research paper topic. The research paper topic. I went through different titles, different literature review across globe, because as Seshkumar sir rightly said, we need to find out the gaps. That is what research means. Research means we need to fill the gap. Earlier knowledge created, that means in the form of books or literature, and we need to relate that gap with the industry gaps. So that's what, successful researcher. So it is not just like, not only our interest, there should be industry gap, because all our business management, or it may be a technology, or it may be any other subject, we need to find out some solutions for the existing problems of the industry. So I have related my 4 years of my engineering knowledge and my 2 years of my experience with the tourism sector. So that is the way we need to connect. We need to connect ourselves. The knowledge base we have already, suppose a person having an MBA. So in MBA, they might have completed some, summer project or a part, some small thesis to complete their PhD, for their MPG program, MBA program. So we need to, and moreover, they might have studied some specialization, maybe marketing, finance, HR, some other things. So these specialized knowledge need to be connected, correlated with our existing knowledge and also industry gaps. So then it would be a great success and successful PhD. So now my question is, my point is here, how to differentiate a research paper and a PhD topic. Most of the people, they confuse. Research paper is different, PhD topic is different. Don't equate both of them. Research paper may be written maybe 1 month or 2 months or maximum 6 months. Some people may be spending 1 year also. That is a different story. In general, MBA in management social sciences, we spend 3 months to 6 months for a good quality paper. PhD is more than 3 years or sometimes 5 years also. It will take. So now I tell you my topic, how I have selected my PhD topic. My PhD topic was customer satisfaction bank services. Again, I'm repeating, customer satisfaction in bank services. You can ask me, sir, why you have selected customer satisfaction and banks? I have selected banking sector. The reason is my professor has 20 PhDs and 35 MPhils, and he spent more than 30 years in banking sector. So that is why I selected banking sector, and I have developed a passion. And some of my family member also working in a bank. Then naturally I'll get the more knowledge. So knowledge creation. So acquaintance, any topic you choose, first you need to have a interest, likingness. You should love the subject. Then only we can go forward. If you don't like this topic or industry, you cannot go forward. To go forward about your topic, first we need to develop an interest towards that particular sector and the subject. And you can ask me one more question. Sir, why you have selected a customer satisfaction? Customer satisfaction is a burning topic forever. It is not today customer satisfaction. Customer may be satisfied, dissatisfied, or more satisfied in coming years also. So we cannot satisfy a customer. It is a qualitative aspect. It is a qualitative aspect. We never, customers never be satisfied. So it is a gap between a bank services and my marketing specialization. So I have related my marketing specialization with my professor banking sector specialization. So that is why I see many scholars, they develop a title within 1 day, 2 days. It is a very, I feel that's not a right perspective. You need to spend more time. You need to develop an interest towards one particular sector. Okay. So one more thing, the topic you are selecting should be universal. I selected a topic, customer satisfaction, bank services, which is universal in nature. It is not Dehradun, it is not in Hyderabad or a Bangalore or Delhi. So customers are there everywhere, and moreover, they should be satisfied every time. So there are so many gaps are there for every product. Suppose they purchased a Apple, iPhone. So whether customer is satisfied or not, or Samsung iPhone, or it may be tourism destination like tourists are coming to Dehradun, whether tourists are satisfied or not. So satisfaction, customer satisfaction, every time it would be there. It is not today or last 20 years or coming 30 years also we can study a customer satisfaction. So we need to select a topic which is general in nature. Don't select a topic just for a, suppose I tell you one example. One of my earlier Geetam faculty, he studied MBA from UK University, and now he is a senior assistant professor. He selected one topic in logistics and supply chain management. He registered for PhD in Acharya Nagarjuna University, Guntur, 10 years before, on a latest techniques of logistics and supply chain management. Even today, he could not complete his PhD. 10 years over. You can add some recent developments, recent technologies. Suppose AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning. That's a very latest topic. It is happening from past 2 years, 3 years. In this topic, you cannot, do a PhD. To develop a PhD, you require minimum 50 publications should be there in a standard international textbooks. Another 50 articles should be published in a international national journals. Then only you can have a literature review. So for a literature review, you cannot write two paragraphs, three paragraphs. Literature review is a separate chapter. To develop a separate chapter, you need to have a already existing knowledge should be there. That knowledge should be improved, added. Some other latest customer satisfactions may be improved, added. So never take a very latest one as a research topic. You can add as a one small 10 pages or 5 pages in your thesis. I think you got my point. Any doubt you have? Anyone? You never take a topic which is on very latest one and do a PhD. No, you can add those latest techniques, latest processes, latest services, maybe as a 1, 2 pages or 3 pages in your thesis, but it's not a topic. So many people, many scholars, they select a topic which is very most relevant, and they never complete the PhD. So that's what I say. So whenever you develop a topic, it should be universal, and moreover, the title of the topic should not be a complicated. So many research papers, PhDs I observed, they complicate the title. Why you need to complicate the title? Title should be very easy to understand, easy to read. Don't complicate the titles. And moreover, As a scholar, you cannot decide your title of the thesis. You need to discuss with your guide and also industry people, and also latest journals, latest books. Then only you can develop a thesis title. I took more than 1 year to develop my thesis title. Thesis title cannot be developed just over across the table. It is not a 1 hour or 2 hours job. It takes minimum. Moreover, the title may be modified also. I have modified with my guide more than 3 times, because when we are reading literature review, already some doctorates, some papers may be already published. Then I cannot take same title. So the title should be new one, innovative, and it should have enough research literature review. I told you minimum 50 research papers should be published, and also 50 books should be published. Then only we should develop a one PhD title, because you need to develop a 200 to 300 pages to develop a book for a PhD. So this is what exactly the backdrop behind a develop any particular title. Yes. Now I have developed some points. So let me explain one by one. Yeah. First point is, write down your main interest related to your field of study. The study in which you are going to study, you need to note down. So as I told you, whether it is marketing, and one more thing I want to tell you, whatever you studied in MBA or MTech or MCA, you need to carry forward. So suppose in MBA, my specialization is marketing. I cannot do PhD in finance. I cannot do PhD in HRM. It won't help me in my career also. No one will appreciate also. So once I know one candidate came to National Institute of Tourism for the interview, assistant professor interview. His name was Prabhakar Rao. He has MBA in finance, PhD in HRM. Then they rejected the candidate. The candidate was not selected. So he selected a topic which is relevant to your MBA specialization. Don't jump from one specialization to another specialization. It will be negative to your career. You won't get any good career in your lifetime. So whatever you have knowledge, sometimes there may be interdisciplinary. Suppose marketing with, you can connect with the information technology. That's okay. MIS, marketing information system, that can be connected. But not, I cannot deviate from marketing specialization to finance specialization. That is wrong. That is a wrong decision you are taking. So whatever you are selecting a topic, it should be related to your specialization in your PG. Then only you can go forward. Moreover, in any interview, for any, they see your background of your knowledge also. Then only you may get good careers. So this is what I say. So first point says that write down your main interests. If you want to do marketing, in marketing also which one? Customer satisfaction, or sales distribution, or sales force management, or product development, or market study, or market research. So like this, you need to develop certain topics which are relevant to your field of study. So don't jump from one study to another study. That's the most important. Another one is, go through your past coursework to find papers you enjoyed writing. Already in your degree, UG level, PG level, you might have published some papers. So your PhD thesis also should be related to same topical. I tell you, before coming here, I applied for Delhi University. Delhi University as a professor. My paper, my resume was shortlisted. The reason was the members of the board, the professor saying that, sir, you have more than 35 papers in tourism. That is why we selected. So your PhD topic should be related to the earlier papers you have published. Then only you will get a good career. So this is what I say. Go through your past coursework, maybe UG level or PG level or MPhil level or whatever the research papers you published. Same base you need to develop. Don't jump from one specialization to another specialization and you end up with a no career and nothing. Nothing will happen to your career. This is second point. And third point is, research current events to see what is happening in your field. Yes, we need to study the latest. Today, one of my colleague in computers, Amit Das, he has published a paper in Business World about AI and machine learning in military. So he related artificial intelligence, machine learning with the military warfare. So this is the way how you need to relate variables from your UG level, PG level knowledge with the current happening, because warfare is always a current topic. Always a current topic, warfare is a. So there your technologies, you can relate to the warfare. It's a current burning topic every time. Just like I told you, customer satisfaction, always people looking for security of India. So for security of India, we require technology. Okay, technology is most important nowadays. So this is the way you need to research current events to see what is happening in your field. That's what. And fourth point says, look for gaps in current research related to your field. Yes, there are some gaps. Suppose, as earlier Sash Kumar told, he studied 20 years of research study. Some 1990, 91, what happened? 92, what happened? 93, what happened? Like that, 20 years if you study, then definitely you can find a current gap, latest gap. That is why people are saying, go for research, literature review. Once you study the earlier published papers, then we understand what to go for next level. So this is what my advice to budding researchers. So minimum you study 14 to 20 years of past research, then only you can come out with a very good research. Next, fifth one, ask your professors which topic they think is right for you. Yes, don't decide yourself. Never you feel, some people by publishing 3 papers, 4 papers, they feel that they are kings. They are, they know everything. No, zero only. So you need to consult your guide and talk to him and convince him. If you won't convince your guide, your PhD never be completed, because he is not interested in the topic, then you cannot complete your PhD. So in Indian context, your guide role is most important for any PhD to go forward. And sixth, talk to your classmates about their, lingering questions. How I get about customer satisfaction, I need to talk about some scholars, some of my batchmates, or banking professionals, or professors, or banking, senior officers. Then only I may get knowledge about the banking sector or customers. It may be a savings account, or maybe current account, or maybe loans. Different types of 15 varieties of loans are there in the bank. So you need to talk everyone. Then you may get a sufficient knowledge to shape up your topic. Another one is, think about what type of work you plan to do in the future. Yes, you need to have a action plan. Action plan coming 3 years or coming 2 years, how to go about. This is 3 months, what to study. After 3 months, what to study. You need to classify your timeline for different periods, and you can go forward. This is the way how you need to develop a title. Make a list of 5 to 10 topics that might be interesting thesis topic. Yes, don't go out, select a topic right now. You need to develop some 3 to 4 topics, and based on that one, you choose a better one by consulting your title. So now I invite the audience. You can raise some questions on selection of a topic, then I can answer your questions. I think Puneet, you can unmute them if anyone is asking questions.
Parveen, other participants are able to unmute themselves?
Yes, no. Anyone is raised question, no hand, then you can unmute.
Okay. So participants can raise their hands if they have any doubt regarding the selection of the topic for thesis or research work.
Yeah, some chat box is there. So no doubts. Anyone, any doubt regarding selection of a topic? Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative session, sir. So the session was very beneficial for all of us, especially as the scholars. And I'm very much sure that along with me, the scholars would find this session very useful while finding a suitable topic for the research. Now, with the permission of the authorities, I would like to pause this session for a small lunch break, and I would like to to request the participants to kindly join the session at 2 o'clock after the lunch break ends. Sir, with your permission, can we?
Yeah, Prachi madam, yes. You can close the session now. We will join at 2
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
for the lunch.
Yes.
Thank you.